There we go. Okay, so let me just figure out where I was. So I wanted to start at number bet, because there was a note on there that I wanted to do and didn't get to it. So we're going to come down here and look at the Yochai. So it says number bet, B'or Yochai kan, Bir lefi darko la'el, sheyesh beis yichudim. Now I said this yesterday, we'll look at it again. The first yichud is yichud hashalem. He calls this the yichud hashalem. Besod chachma, which is chachma, the oz meir yud elyon, the erik anpin, besod yud tachton, which is represented by zer anpin. Okay, ve'ein bechinas v'bina mapsek be'emsa. We've seen, development of the idea of Bina being mashpia directly into Malchus. Here we have the other idea, which is the right side being lined up. Let's see what else. Who's so yichud the milas v'yetzer. So you see this Lachon creation like this is the two yuds coming together. Shein hepsek os yud os hey bein the two yudin. That's one way. That's the word v'yetzer. So he said the other one is yichud bilti shalem. It's not a complete yichud. So the use of the word yichud here is unusual in the sense I understand the simple meaning, because usually yichud is the yichud of opposites. That's what we're really talking. Here we're talking about father and son kind of relationship. But over here he says, but there's another one. He says yichud bilti shalem besod bina. The bechina b'bina mapsik be'emsa, so you don't have that ultimate match on the right line. The shefa elyon over rock be'emso, so it has to go through the medium of bina. V'az ein yuda elyon the erik anpin mislavish betoch the yud tachton. So that's another idea. So erik anpin actually becomes inside or directly. It sounds without any hapsak. But here it is, mamish betoch yud tachton the zer anpin v'huz so the yichud the milas yehi. That's the secret of this word yehi. Let it be. Sheyesh hepsek os hey bein habeis yudin ein sham. Look, it's the fact of a certain way of looking at this, and let's go on to the next part. So he said lahosiv the buyer besifrit it's niutakan should be yichud the milas yehi, that when we talk about the word yehi, sheyesh os hey bein yud the yud. Ein na'asach hayichud bein erik anpin the zer anpin. We understand that ela al yedei ruach hachotim. Now that's where we have to focus, is what's going on in this chotim. The only way that this yichud could take place is through this concept of the ruach of the chotim, shehu bebechinas b'bina hamapsik be'emsa. Okay, so we had a definition. We went through this yesterday, but we had a definition of that as being the hay or the bina of Kesser. So some very penimistic place. Ki oz na'asach hayichud ayedech beruach hachotim shenimshach b'manish shefa v'kiyus v'muchrach v'tzorach hanhagas atachtonim. And maybe there's something to that last part. He says that you need this ruach to come through the nose, which is really breathing, I think, to a certain extent. Ayedech beruach hachotim. And this is the part I'm focusing on. If it says does he mean just the natural world or like that? Or does he mean that we're alive because of it? For the gam tosefes shefa ruach hachotin tzorach yichud enu gorim yichud ikri. There's another phrase too. Yichud ikri doesn't up above. They said they use the word yichud shalem. He says that the root yichud, it doesn't cause that Rabbi ha'aros, and he has something about this down below. So there's a little arichas here, and try to figure out exactly what he means by yichud ikri, and how is it. Like I said before, the question I would have is normally when we say yichud, we're talking about opposites, male and female. Here he's talking about male and male, and he's using words like yichud shalem and yichud ikri. Well, let's see what we can do with it. He says, Rabbi, again, Be'or Yakar, Sham She'irit Pazev, Zel Shona Bebein Yud, the Yehi. Pirish, so we're focused on that, I guess. Pirish behiyos hey bein yud liyud. So therefore they're not just one entity. Yachad b'li hepsek. Yudin shall the word v'yetzer that we had over v'hainu shuhu mora al adni havaya. Now I'm not sure exactly how this goes together. This really adni havaya would be bina and we've seen that it means bina and malchus. So he says shuhu mora are this same combination. Shuhu mitzad bina frishna, which is on the left side, as we explained before. Now, okay, that's what I was saying. I was saying that's what excuse me, that's not what I was saying. I was saying that we're talking about opposites. Here he's talking about the combination of lines. So he said, it's not that. It can't be that. But it has to come through the blowing of the nose. Now, what I'm thinking is, what is the inspiration that causes us to breathe? I'm just wondering if this is what he's talking about, or trying to talk about. Ela al nashba de bardashka, there has to be some blowing from the nose, this interior nose that we're talking about inside of the keser. Pirush, now let me explain. He says, let me explain it better. He says, Pirush, hainu nukve hodim, let's look up at the nostrils, the nostrils. Behind the netzach and hod, and he says that the nostrils are called netzach and hod. So he said, I'm not sure that I saw this before, but I can't remember everything I might have seen. So he says, netzach v'hod represent the nostrils. The hasam is pashtusa the imeri law besod hey. And here, at this place, in the nostrils, is where we said the spread, or the movement the spread of ima malah besod the letter hey. Kedefrishna, ima law ad hod, ima law stretches all the way down on the left line to hod, which is the concept of maybe he's talking about the concept of the uniting of the left line. And so therefore you see that she goes all the way down to baga. That's baga, bina, gevura, and hod. So he's for this reason, the horos, to teach us, she yichud erik v'zer, eno ella al pas al yedei, osa haruach, hamis nashev sham v'nishpos hachayim, and nishpoim hachayim derek osam in the kovim. Let me read it again. That the yichud of erik anpin and zer anpin, v'lekach l'hora sheyichud erik anpin enu ela and zer anpin enu ela pas al yedei osach haruach hanishbach b'sham. So that's the hay that we're talking about of the nishpoim hachayim, and it pours out, or it streams out life force, breath. Let's say life force. Derek osam anekavim animshachem hashefa lezer. So that's the way they come out of these nostrils. L'kach hey bein yud the yud. Now it's really not 100% clear how the hay represents the two nostrils. I mean, you do have two lines, vertical lines on the sides. One could be the right nostril, the left nostril, and then what do you do with the part on the top? So still need to know some of that. So let's go on. The lahoros sha'ayidech ima ilo chutma, which she represents chutma. Animshechas derek vav metzach, which is coming down through the letter vav, which is coming down through the metzach. Now all of these ideas, I'm not sure that I have in my repertoire. I read again. He says, well, yud bein the hay that goes in between the two yud and the horish al yedecha v'chababina ima yilo chutma, which this word chutma she represents the nose. She's the sag. I don't know. Meneshevis, which blows. Derek vav mechametzach, with through the letter vav down into from the metzach. And how does it blow out? It blows out through netzach and hod. Heim misyachadim v'zecha ve'ena yichud ikri. So that is the force that makes them come together again, but it's not the yichud ikri. Why? Miftei she'ein zer el shefa v'chiyus because it's a limited, he says this is a limited shefa. That shefa is only for the purpose of the phrase that he's using, l'tzorach anhagas atachtonim, which I'm assuming means physical life. Instead of a yichud, which he says is shalem, or ikri. Let's say, Sharuach Chaim El Yonim Yordan Mislavshim Besod Nishmas Ha'af. It goes into what? It doesn't say Nishimas, he says the Nishmas of the Af. So again, Yordim Masbashim Besod Nishmas Ha'af Ha'elyon La'ada Betachton. So it comes from the upper, it's a new phrase, a phrase, Besod Nishmas Ha'af, the neshama of the nose, of the upper nose, of the Me'adam Etachton, which is us, Dikadech Siv, V'yipach Ba'apav Nishmas Chaim, that you blew into his nose the neshama of life, the Haina neshama Vadai. So he says that this is really referring to the neshama itself, Mechababina Al Yonah Shebekeser, which comes once again from this upper bina, which is the bina of Keser, Al Yonah Shebekeser. So he says, when the neshama we know goes with the concept of bina. Now, all of this is like, if I could put it all together, it could maybe make a lot of sense. So let's keep reading and try to see if there's a conclusion. Kadechsev v'nishmas shakai tavinum. So it's a pasuk. So the neshama, okay, so there, this word tavinum goes along with the word bina. And Nishmas Shakai, well, Shakai is Yisod, and the Neshama goes through that process, and that's the Bina, El HaTachtonim, and it comes through that process unto us. Now this phrase, he says, Nishmas Shakai, Sh'amar La'olam Dai V'yesh Ba Gavul. So he says that it has Dai, I guess a Yesh Ba Gavul, there's some boundary here. Ela Adam Elyon, to the man, there's a boundary between us and the Adam Elyon, Nishmas She'im Bodai Bilti Bal Tachlis. In other words, let me get back to that. Here it says, so let me read again. She said this corresponds, Shene'emer La'olam Dai Yesh Ba Gavul. What does that mean? It's limited. Ela Adam Elyon, if you look at it, the upper man, I guess he means to Zeranpin, I'm not sure exactly, or maybe we're talking about Eric Anpin again. Nishmas She'ein B'Chabedai Bilti Bal Tachlis. Now, remember that he says that we know that the letter Hey, the first letter Hey, refers to Bina, and Bina also refers to the concept of Neshama. So, Nishmas Ein Ba'Dai, that's the Neshama, the ultimate one, the one of Keser, that's what I think. V'hainu sod atzmos amispashet misham. So he said that he's talking about the real light, the ultimate light that spreads from that place. In other words, well, maybe not in other words, maybe he's talking about that hay of Keser that we're talking about, where this is actually coming. Misgashem, I think is that Misgashem, Misnashev, the Kiyim Havayus, Lahanhagas Amitzios, and it blows. That's the word that we could use then. He said the Kiyim Havayos, it blows in order to be able to bring breath into us, so that's my words. Chius, Lahanhagas Amitzios, that allows all things down below to keep going. Shazulas on Neshima Chazot, because if you didn't have this Neshima, say, Chaz v'Shalom, Ein Mitzios, there would be no reality. So he says that, I'm not sure what he's getting at when from going way back where he said the Yud going to the Yud, putting the two Yudim together. And that would be some kind of a Yichud Shalom. Not sure what he's trying to say is why do we want this? What is the purpose? Over here we're saying that the hay allows for Shefa to come into the physical world. It's the physicalization of this Shefa that could have gone just on the right side on the male side. It would have been a complete flow, let's say a really good flow. Over here it gets interrupted by Bina, but Bina, that interruption makes it possible, I believe that's what he's saying, for the world to work. So he said, Umisnashev, again, the Kiyam Hahavayus, the Hanhagas, and let's go over the words again, that it blows for the sake of sustaining bringing life force into these, the word is havayos, which is yud kei vav keis, lahan hagas amitzios, because that is the balance scale that allows for the world to work. Shazulas on the Shema chazot, because if you didn't go back to this neshima we're talking about, chas v'shalom, a mitzios, there is no reality. So it has to go through this process for a physicality to take place. And this is what it says of it. If there's this ruach, this lo iskaim, nothing will last. Everything would be destroyed. The hainu sod yehi. That's the concept of yehi. The yud has to go, for us to be able to exist, it has to go through this bina. And he's taking it back. Just imagine, the way I imagine it is that you take the word yehi, which is very small on this page to begin with, and make it smaller and smaller and smaller until you're at the incipience of where the letters are coming from. And that is in Kesser, and that is where the source of this is. So it says, if you say like this, im came, since you didn't have that word yehi there, that means it's not going through that process. So there was really no blowing, there was no air there yet, or no breath there yet. Va'at amrat lo iskayim, and then you say like this, it's not, if that's the case, it can't stay together. Ela betri gavni koyim chai milsa, it's really two different things that this is referring to. I'm not sure, I'm getting a little bit lost, but he says, echad, the first one is neshiva ruach hachayim hamakayim. So that's the blowing of the breath of the ruach chayim, which allows for the sustaining of life, or the creation of life, and that's what, I don't know, because, okay, that's yehi, he says. Vashenis tosefes mitzias beyichud kedifrishno adkan. Well, that kind of ended that, and I don't really know where that went. But the second one, he says, an additional mitziuso beyichud, with that yichud that we're talking about. Now, I don't know if he went back to the double yudin, the yudin going together, or where exactly he was in that piece. But he dropped in some interesting idea, and he's saying that our breathing is, to me, he's saying, that our breathing is really as a result of the shefa that's coming from the hay in between the yud of chokhmah and the yud of zer anpin, that allows for the refining of this light, or the physicalization of this energy to go into breath. Okay, that's what I think you could do with that. Okay, now we're going to let's go to the Pirush HaTalmud. So, Rabbi Pirush HaTalmud, it says Shabir Khan, so he explains this. The milas ksiv v'yita Hashem Elokim, those words. Ksiv v'yita Hashem Elokim, and Hashem planted this Shaykh Khan, going back in the Idra, v'al zeh Omer Khan behemshech mahu inyan hanatiya, when he said that Zeranpin is going to be brought out, born out, and now it's going to be replanted. Hey bein yud, the yehi, and that is a concept of it. This is a different view. So a completely different view. And this is like the hey between the two yudin. V'tolcha ma'inyan hu, so v'tolcha ma'inyan, so the pnimis of this idea is, kin is boyer le'era the base yudin shall yehi, heim erik anpin v'zer anpin. V'atach mevayer od, and that explains further. So everybody agrees with that, or if that's possible. So the ma'atza, what does he do? He plants the letter hey, he plants them. There's two yud in there. I guess he's saying like this. Starts out two yud in. The matzah comes and sticks a hey in between them. The elu shehi bina hanikwas nahar hamshaka esagan, which this is the place where the garden, which I guess means more physicality and growth, a place of growth. This is where all that shefa comes from. Shuhu zer anpin. Zer anpin here is the garden. Ki al yedecha bebina miskayim ma'or shel erik anpin b'soch zer anpin. So it's a different, very different view. Not a different view. It's really along the same line. Here he says that bina is the part that sustains the light of erik anpin going into zer anpin. V'hu sod ruach hachoitim. And this is the same thing as the concept of the ruach hachoitim, Hanikru rucha de bardashka al yadam is galim kol oris erik anpin el zer anpin. Now, you see, the same similar idea is that a refracting process has to go through for the yud to be mashpia or be the manifest, because I think he might have said the words then the previous pirish of the Yor Yakar, but the idea that you're creating havayos, or you're solidifying the havayos. So he says, Yisrael called Oras Erik Anpin al Zer Anpin. This is what he says, going down, B'dilag. What does that mean? So it's known like this. In any place, you have these two names appear like this. Shem Mole, who Mora al Atika Kadisha, this is talking, the Shem Mole is really going back, instead where we were saying before, that it refers to Bina. Now he's going to say, actually, it refers to Erik Anpin. Evid Yaakov the Yakare, I'm not sure what that phrase meant, I forgot to look at it. It's in the Rev. So his Evid Yakar, I remember it now. Avid Yakar, give glory to the glorious one. And he has a little bit on that to give us straighten out on what that phrase was. Ritzama Lomar, the Tika Kadisha Erik Anpin, Megala Orach Yedecha Bezer Anpin, he reveals his light through the agency, the medium of Zer Anpin. So Yisrael Shebach is poyer, because Yisrael Zer Anpin, in you, that is where I will be glorified. In order to stain that light, Zer Anpin, Ha'atzel Atika Kadisha. So this is what he wants to say. Now, get a little better explanation of what we had over there with the two Yuds. Because what it is that Zer Anpin is the manifestation, the place where the manifestation of the Yud Ke Vav Ke, which will come from Erik Anpin, that's where you see it. That's where it's manifest. So therefore, that's why you want to hook the two of them. That's what you ultimately want. That's what Erik Anpin ultimately wants, in the direction there. Now, Ha'atzel Atika Kadisha as Bina, so the Erik Anpin brings in a Bina in between, Shuhu Ruach Zer Anpin, which is actually the breathing, the breath of Zer Anpin. I'm talking a breath. Ki bechinas atzmusa the Zer Anpin, hu nefesh, a Bina. So nefesh is nefesh, ubina. I'm getting this wrong. He didn't say what I thought he was saying. Atzmusa Zer Anpin, hu nefesh. So the atzmus of Zer Anpin is nefesh. Ubina na'asa ruach alav. So that's how to read that. Bina, he at the bottom, he's a 9. He's just at the bottom. But the truth is that he has a relationship with Bina, and Bina brings into him a ruach. As a result of that, Zer Anpin is ruach, el Zer Anpin. And that ruach can say the name, read the name, Yud Ke Vav Ke. Who rucha the bardashka the nashiv antika kadisha the Zer Anpin, going way back, as we said before, into the bina of Keser. That's the concept now that we're getting about how Hashem Elokim is planting inside Shukur Atika Kadisha, which is Erik Anpin, Kaniskar, that he uses bina. That is, that there's a mind behind the mind. The mind behind the mind here wants to be able to be manifest in Zer Anpin, brings in that mind has intention to ma'atzel bina, as the bina's episode becomes a medium by which Erik Anpin can be manifest in Zer Anpin. So now it says more than for this. What is this planting we're talking about? The yud. That's the planting, he said. You used to have just, the idea was the yud wanted to be manifest in the other yud. This according to this thinking of this is the Talmud. So he said, in order to do that, the Ma'atzil had to put a hay in between them. And that's the planting. In order to be able to pour Shefa into the Gan, which is Teferes, which is Zer Anpin, Tzarek Nahar, which is Bina, Shu Bina Lezeh. So therefore, that's why you need Bina, but Bina has to come in order to be able to make it possible. So he says, the letter Hey, Header Hey is Bina v'Amar Bein Yud. The Yud, she's in between the two Yudin. Ritzol Aloba Bein Latika Kadisha, the Zer Anpin, the Yehi. That's what he's been talking about. There's a couple of notes on this They're short ones, and maybe we'll look at it tomorrow. Thanks for spending the time with me. I really appreciate it. Call to.
Yeah.